Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. What a week. Juicy Juice Productions, ladies and gentlemen. Even though we just got done with FOMC, we got CPI next week. Are you guys ready? Zoom Boom says, fuck ton of longs is my data. Well, that's wrong. Just straight up. So Zoom Boom, make sure that you, if you ever miss a stream, make sure you get caught up and rewind, okay? I'm here on average 10 hours a day. All right. And I've been here for 3 years every day. Half of the lions are bullish, half of the lions are bearish, right? So people are asking me questions. We're looking at data. We've been looking at this for about 3 months now. Zoom Boom. All right, so let me just show you. So you know how to read open interest, I would assume, right? Yeah, so as long as you understand that there's about $2.4 billion worth of shorts that are underwater, right? Can you see that? So it's 2.74 billion shorts open in this range, okay? About 92% of that is all underwater and trapped. And these are weekly candles, brother. We've been watching this for about 4 months. So for 4 months, you haven't realized that there's $2.5 billion in shorts underwater. Think about that. Why do you think we were longing here? This is a hidden bull div. For 3 years, I've been a pretty big proponent of hidden bullish divergence. So why do you think we were looking for longs here? I wanted 72, right? This is a hidden bull div. You understand that? Lambie News says, I'm long since 96.5 and I don't know when to refill. That's okay, but more importantly, make sure that you know when to rewatch the highlights, my boy. All right, levels to the upside. Look at these lines, man. We pixel perfect. If you haven't gone back and rewounded and got all of the levels to the upside and downside, that's just effort, Yeah, these levels have been here with me for months. So if you really want to know where to TP or where my next levels are, it's really just 30, 40 minutes of going back through the old highlights about 3-4 months ago. Yep. What I usually tell people is if you're juicing and you find yourself unprepared, you're pretty screwed. Because if you couldn't prepare or plan in a good green trade, I don't know how you're going to do that when you're in the red. So when you're in a green trade, use it as an opportunity to do the right thing. Because it should be really easy to do the right thing when you're in the profit. If you can't do the right thing when you're in the green, I doubt you'll be able to do the right thing when you're in the red, right? So every trade is an opportunity to prove it to yourself that you can be the trader that you aspire to be. Ka-cha! Too easy, chat. Crypto Clown says, I'm a little pissed. I'm such a bear. I never take these longs, only want lower. That's okay. What the real question is, Crypto Clown, is are you actually self-aware, right? And are you able to improve and adapt? The problem isn't so much that you're not taking longs. The problem is that you're clearly aware of an issue and you have yet to resolve it or apply a solution. Alrighty. So it's not really so much about I keep missing longs. It's about what is it that's preventing you from improving. Does that make sense? Every day we start the stream off with a threshold and a bullish plan and a bearish plan, right? So maybe that's what you need to do as well. Yeah, try to be as objective as you can. All right, Crypto Clown. But where were you for the last 6 months when we were longing all of this? I guess you missed us last year when we were longing all of this. And then you missed us when we were longing all of this. Somebody said it yesterday, but there's a clip where I'm like, who gives a fuck if your entry is 75, 80, or 85 if we're expecting 135? There were people that were like, yo, how can I take, I didn't get the 74 long, Kimba, what should I do? And I said, dude, who gives a fuck if your entry is 75, 80, or even 85 if we're going to go to 135? So remember, I'm never going to be able to convince your subconscious. Now, are you really just so bearish that you can't take longs? Or you're so greedy that you constantly want the best possible entry possible? Remember what we said about human psychology? Sometimes people that always wait for the best entry, it's just an expression of their lack of confidence. Some people have no idea what they're doing, so their way of risk management is to try and get the best possible, the lowest entry on the long, the highest entry possible on the short, because that's how they minimize their losses. That's their risk management. And that's obviously a perverted version of trading. That's not what trading is, right? Some people will overcompensate, and since they have no idea what they're doing, their only method of risk management is, I need the best short entry or I need the best long entry, so if I'm wrong, my losses are minimal. That's not trading. So it's kind of hard to figure out what it is that you can improve or what it is that you're doing wrong. But it's hard to say if it's really because you're truly bearish. It might be that you're just too greedy. Yeah, so just have a threshold and say above here is bullish. And if it starts to go, this is the zone that I'm going to give myself to chase. If it's below here, it's bearish, and this is the zone that I'm going to allow myself to chase. But every day when we start the stream, we have a bullish plan and a bearish plan. And so you should try to do the same. What really blows my mind are the people that show up late or they're not listening, and they're like, but wait, I thought you were in a short. But wait, I thought you were in a long. And they don't realize the plan is above here is bullish, below here is bearish. We're below it, okay, we're going to try to take bearish retests. Above it, okay, we're going to take the bullish retest. And so if you can't flip-flop pretty quick based off of data, you're going to have a hard time trading, I think. And remember what I tell people every day? I'm never going to be able to convince your subconscious bias. So it doesn't matter if I'm telling you guys, or if I'm looking for longs for 3 months. 6 months later, after we're back in range, people are going to be like, oh, I'm so pissed at myself for not longing. But everybody had the chance to do it. So what you really want to focus on is, how do I not miss that next time? Because when we do this, how do you not fuck up that long in 8 months from now? How do you make sure to not fuck up that long 2 years from now? You need to figure out what the fuck you did wrong here, learn from it so you don't fuck this one up. Otherwise, what you just went through here and all the unrealized profits that you round tripped or whatever you're crying about was for nothing. If at least you can learn from this, then you can juice on this one. But if you never take the time to learn and really figure this shit out, you're just going to constantly miss opportunities left and right. And your life will be filled with just missed opportunities. So, got to lock in, man. And try to figure out how you can apply actionable improvement. You can't just be sitting there wishing you did this or coulda, shoulda, woulda. You need to figure out protocols that can help you do better next time. Cut joy. Even my 5-year-old niece is talking about longing, 99. on Monday. You know what I mean? So obviously, like back testing 100K, 99, 98, whatever the fuck it would be, right, is like the most obvious bullish retest. But yeah, seems a little bit crowded, but my 5-year-old niece wants to long 98. So, I mean, if there's a hidden bull div, you know, it might be a little thang. Otka says, hey, Kimba, what happened to counter trading Sato? No more counter trading? What do you mean? Otka, make sure you rewind and get caught up on the highlights, okay? Otka. All right. Okta, I'm going to be giving away about $1,000 per person starting in 2 weeks. If you get nothing, you can't cry to me, okay? Because it's my way of thanking people that are actually watching. So if you don't watch the highlights, if you don't rewind and get caught up, if you don't care, then I'm not going to care. Would it be fair that I reciprocate your effort? Russo says, I'm on terrible losing streak. Dumb for the week. I need to reset and review all my decisions. Has some nice W's, but somehow blew it all trying to short this pump. Have a good weekend, everyone. That's okay, Russo. I think you have to always, I mean, I don't know if you were just popping in and out of the stream or if you've been able to watch everything, Russo. But you got to understand like where the higher time frame is, right? So yeah, I mean, it depends on why you're shorting. Really, anything above 88, you should really be shorting so that it allows you to responsibly long. Russo. So what I mean by that is, we longed this together, Russo. We longed all of this together, Russo. If you're going to short value area high, if you're going to short point of control, or if you're going to short value area low, then you need to be cognizant of the fact that if this is turned into support, it's going to go to the value area high. That's just basic math, right? So start with higher time frame. Okay. If you're going to be shorting in here, you're doing it so that you don't have to TP your longs from here, right? If you're in a long, which we are, you're either TPing or you're going to hedge short. If you TP and you close it, you have to re-enter. If you hedge short, you don't have to close the long. It's still running. And if it really is bullish and you're wrong on the short, you get to pump the market for free. If you take a short and you close it, you're market buying again, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think it just starts with your subconscious bias. I've been talking about 2025 is bullish for me. So that hasn't changed since last year. And it's going to be the same thing for like a short. Yeah, so you want to start with higher time frame bias and make sure that you're objective. Triple J says, what would you target on an ETH short considering there is no bullish edge as of now? Well, the question doesn't make sense. What would I target on ETH short? VWAP, naked point of control, settlement. So probably like 2,000. So these are the levels, right? This is the VWAP that we've been talking about for a potential short. Yes. That's your naked point of control that got just tapped, and look at what it's doing now. So I don't know if you were here the last couple days, brother, but do you have point of control? value area low, value area high, point of control, value area low, mathematical levels, and anchor VWAP. So I would say that if this can do something like this, somewhere around the 0.5, somewhere between like 2,000 and 19 hundo. I mean, again, levels that we've had for months. We put these lines in October of last year. Think about that. Pretty crazy, right? Like it pixeled everything. So any of those levels, really, anchor VWAP, you know, it's probably going to just look like a hidden bull div when it pulls back. Yeah, so wait, I'm going to just wait until this shit breaks and then confirms. That would be like the ultimate, like Bellagio, you know? Yeah, I mean, everybody understands that shorting doesn't have the best ROI, right? Because if you short something, you're capped on how much money you can make. You can't, you know, there's a limit to how much money you can make if you short. Does everybody understand that? The price can only go to zero. So there's a max amount of money that you can make on a short. With a long, it's infinite. The price could go on and keep rising forever.
It's over.
Okay? But if you're shorting, it can only go to zero. It can't go any lower than zero. So if you're, in my opinion, I can understand if you fundamentally think something is wrong or it's a scam, or, you know, like if a company is doing, you know, like shitty accounting, right? And you want to short a company that's fraudulent like Enron, I get that. But if you're going to short crypto, I would assume most of the people that know what they're doing are doing it because they're thinking like me, where they want to hedge against their spot. So if the price goes down, you can get paid. But if you're shorting crypto without really being bearish about it, you're clearly on the higher time frame going against the trend. Right? So if you're going to short, it better be a smaller time frame mindset idea. Unless you just completely think that Bitcoin and crypto is a scam and it's going to go to zero. Any crypto short should always be somewhat of a shorter time frame scalp. I know that this isn't forever type of trade.
Over.
Right?
Bitcoin is going to zero.
Zero. And then, so if you take a step back, well, just because you want the price to go lower and you might end up shorting, that's the wrong execution too. You should have just been dollar cost averaging in. Therefore, a lot of this stuff, you fuck yourself over by adding leverage into the equation. If you were just spot buying and spot selling. So let's say, for example, we weren't, even though we didn't lose any money shorting 92, 94, and 98, right? think about how the losses would have been a little bit more different if we were just selling a little bit of our spot, right? It wouldn't have been nearly as devastating, right? In fact, if we were just selling spot, the only thing that we would have been doing is realizing profits from lower. We wouldn't have been able to even lose money. If we were selling spot, we may have missed out on more profits, but you would have never lost money, if that makes sense. So it's not really about being right or wrong. If you're going to use leverage, you have to assume you're going to get round tripped. You're already taking an incredible risk. You just have to put your stop loss at break even. And if you get lucky and you don't get stopped out and you don't get round tripped and the trade goes for a home run, that's fucking awesome. What I would really like is something like this. So that was the 105 to 85 short. Yeah, and that's kind of not only is that from yesterday's thoughts, but it's just it's something that we've been talking about really since mid-December, if you think about it. Yeah, so I don't know, but I do expect. I mean, copy trading. You know what I would love, dude? 72 or something. What the fuck did I just say? Quit playing with me, chat. What the fuck did I say? I mean, copy trading. You know what I would love, dude? 72 or something. I would love 72. You know, before we really head on up towards like 150. But it could be 72. It could be 78, brother. It might be 82. It might be 85. We might not even get that 80 gap. It might front. What the fuck did I say? And what I even talked about the target. Quit playing with me, chat. What I really like is, so I don't know, but I do expect. I mean, copy trading. You know what I would love, dude? 72 or something. I would love 72. You know, before we really head on up towards like 150. So like when people show up and they're like, Kimba, did you get wrecked on your short? What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Are you not watching? I'm talking about all my plans for months in advance. So basically the point that I'm trying to make is I was already talking about going down into the 70s in December. So we were already talking about, hey, I would love a 72. So 72, that's what we wanted right there. Okay? So here, and look at this, by the way. Look at this. Okay? What I drew, and look at this. So we were zoomed in right there. We got that, the 105 came down, and now we're headed up to 150. So like, if you didn't hear this, right? You could have thought that I was bearish. You know what I mean? I'm hedging my longs. Like I said I would. So that's why it's so important that you get caught up, you know, because your subconscious bias is going to make up your own narrative. But yeah, so what I would tell you, brother, is just prepare, man. There's always another trade. Start with higher time frame shit. Move down into the smaller time frames, okay? But always remember your higher time frame bias. All right? But Yeah, you might be like, oh, fuck, I missed the long. But dude, like, I've been streaming since here. And we've seen all of this. And if there's one thing that this has taught us, there's always another trade. And there's zero value in sitting there talking about, I missed this, I missed that. That will help you nada. You need to get ready to go for the next trade. Triple J, you good big dog. Johnny Rambo says, my question was only because also 100 or 98, if BTC is going higher, as seems to, I can't see how Sol can go to 120 eventually. No, so Johnny Rambo, that's a dead giveaway that you're not caught up on my past streams, right? So that's 120 is the home run target. Okay? And Johnny, remember, I'm looking for longs, right? So don't think of it as I'm trying to TP my short at 120. I would love to get into a long at 120, and I'm closing any shorts that I have left. So your interpretation is going to be a little bit different than mine. Your subconscious bias is going to creep in and fill in the gaps. So my home run TP might be 120 on the short, but what's the level that we talked about earlier this morning that would correlate with 100 Bitcoin? So I'm a big level to level guy, Johnny. I've traded the same for the last 3 years. Nothing has changed. So did you hear what I said earlier in the morning? Shadow Dancer knows 157 is the next level that we talked about this morning, Johnny. So if you're specifically referencing 100K Bitcoin, it would be 157 Sol, brother. And you should be able to come to the same conclusion. You shouldn't need me to say it because they're both going to be at that VWAP and single print, right? Bitcoin, single print, VWAP. Solana, single print, VWAP. So if you want to talk about 100K Bitcoin, then we're talking about like 157 on Sol. So just because I said my home run target is 120, don't be surprised if I get into a long at 157 if the data looks good. And do you know what data I said would make me take a long there? So everything is planned out, but if you listen to all of that and your interpretation was, if your conclusion was, I don't think it can go to 120, that's your bullish subconscious bias kicking in. And if anything, that's the juice that you are getting. That's your opportunity to be like, okay, maybe I'm a little bit biased. But, you know, there's something that your subconscious bias is going to do to, you know, take the interpretation for what you want it to be. Do you know about the psychological phenomenon where 20 people can be staring at the same exact crime happening, and when the police interview all 20 people, they individually have different stories? So I can say something, but the way that your subconscious bias picks and chooses which parts to highlight, which parts to interpret, and ultimately what is the conclusion that you get, that's still juice. You need to be able to have the self-awareness to say, oh shit, maybe I'm a little bit more biased. Or, oh shit, I'm a little bit more bullish. But I'm a big level to level guy. So the next level, the one level below would be like 157. And then one level above would be the SFP. Yeah? And I think it's going to be a lot to do. I mean, Johnny Rambo, how long have you been with us? If I were to ask you, brother, next week is CPI, what's going to be my most important confluence? Would you know the answer? I'm going to be looking at S&P for the most part. Have you noticed that I've been looking at ES, and I'll put this bitch on more than normal lately because it's FOMC, CPI. There's a lot of things back to back. So I'm going to be, you know, watching S&P for the rest of the day, and then I'm going to be watching S&P like a hawk on Monday. And then I have levels that it needs to hold, and I have levels to the upside. So I'll have a good idea if on higher time frame is that if S&P is bullish or bearish, I feel. Sounds good? Yeah, so we might not get 120, Johnny, but I know that it's similar to like what we were doing with Bitcoin, brother. Haskir says anything that we need to be aware of for the weekend. I mean, everything that we talked about. Do you have anything specific you want to ask me, Haskir? Like for example, is that a bad high or a good high, Haskir? How many times has a bad high gotten left behind on a Friday? Did they clean it on Monday, Sunday? What happened? Just like, just do your best and think about all the shit that we've been talking about for the last couple weeks. Yeah. Because, I mean, sooner or later, you want to start to, wean off, right? You're not going to be drinking, like breastfeeding from your mom at 5 years old, right? So at some point, like you want to start weaning off, like asking me what you need to be aware of for the weekend, right? So every weekend we talk about this. Think about all the stuff that we've been talking about for the last couple weeks. We've been talking about how, S&P confluence is a big deal. So it's really more about, do you want to talk about anything again? Yeah, but as long as you've been paying attention to the last couple weekends and the last couple CPIs, the last couple FOMCs, I think you're all set. So just to kind of answer your question so it doesn't seem like I'm just dodging it, brother, if we get 100K at the single CME single print and the VWAP over the weekend, do you think I'll take it? Yes or no? I gave you the answer in that question. If we go to 100K single print on CME during the weekend, do you think I'm going to take it? Yes or no, Haskir? The answer is no, because the CME is closed over the weekend. Therefore, it's not going to be able to grab the single print. So what I would do is if it does nuke and it goes below 100K, I'm taking the bullish retest on Monday with RTH. But the whole point of me longing down there, the whole point of the market going down there would be to restore imbalance, aka get single prints and maybe do like a VWAP retest or clean some lows. That can't happen over the weekend. So that's what I mean by, is the low good or is it bad? And does that mean that the chances of it getting swept again when CME actually comes back, whether Sunday night or Monday morning, does that shit actually going to clean it and then go? So if you're asking me like, are you going to take that long over the weekend? Yeah, I just said no, right? But if the Sunday ETH gap play turns out to be worthy of it, then I might already be in the long before Monday RTH. Does that make sense? But the whole point of me wanting it to go back to do 100K or 98, I want that single print grabbed. So I can't long it until that bitch is grabbed. So I have to wait until CME comes back on. So if I am going to be in a long, if it does dump, depending on where we are price-wise, I'm probably going to have to wait until Sunday ETH. And then I'll play the Sunday ETH in my favor, because the Sunday ETH is going to let me know, dip the tip, this is the invalidation, this is the entry. Did that make sense, Haskir? I'm bullish on higher time frame. Got you. Yeah, so 100K bullish retest, right? And Haskir, this morning, I kind of talked about how you can really fuck shit up and make it so much more complicated than it needs to be when you start to add leverage, right? But what I would encourage you to do is take a look at fixed range volume profiles. Think about putting anchored VWAP on some highs and lows that you like. Obviously, mark out single prints and bad highs and bad lows for the altcoin that you're interested in, Malgus. There is a chance that I'm going to do altcoin nerd out maybe tomorrow or Sunday. I'll be testing the V2 layout all weekend. So if I see something nice, or there's a bunch of lions online, I might pop in and say something. But if you've been able to watch me the last couple weeks, Malgus, I'm not going to do anything different than what I've been doing. Volume, time-based levels, mathematical levels. Okay? The only thing that I will probably do a little bit differently than any other week is that I'm going to be really focused on S&P confluence since it's a CPI week. So, and the other thing too, to maybe even a extra variable to think about is CPI, which is usually on a Wednesday, is actually on Tuesday next week. So that gives you a little bit more credence to thinking about a 105 SFP or a Trident at 100. So do you think initial move is going to be a debate on Tuesday morning? If so, if you have a bad high or a bad low through the weekend price action and the Monday price action, it might be, worth it to be patient. Does that make sense, Malgus? I was doing that all day today thanks to Mandalo's Addis video. That's awesome, Malgus. So I would just work your way backwards. When I say initial move is a debate, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you think that's going to happen on Tuesday? What is some data points that we've been talking about for the last 2 years that can indicate if it's going to be a debate or not? Right? Have you been able to take a look at the last couple like Sunday ETHs? We were talking earlier about Sunday ETHs. So I don't really give a fuck what it does tonight. I don't really give a shit what it does tomorrow. But but on Sunday, right around 2-3 hours before ETH open, I'm going to come back to the charts. I'm going to see what it did over the weekend. Is the high good? Is the low good? What are the probabilities and chances that an unfinished zone is going to get cleaned up on Tuesday?
It's over.
So I could take a 105 SFP short. I could take a 100 long. Yeah, but you do know that on the higher time frame, I'm looking for at least 130, 140 minimum. So I would much prefer to continue to look into getting into longs. The only shorts that I'm going to take all the way up until 150 is going to be hedge shorts, so that basically I feel like I'm responsibly swinging for a home run. You have two options, right? You can either close and shave and realize a long, or you can let the entirety of the long run and do a hedge short. Either way, it's the same thing. So it just depends on, are you leaning a little bit more towards wanting to realize and get out of the position, or are you leaning a little bit more towards keeping it and holding on to it? So we'll continue to do the same thing that we've been doing for the last couple weeks and months. Make sure you pay attention. We're going to get this juice. Tone Amp says, Kimba, can you explain why would anyone buy BTC on CME right before close of the week? If your question is why this, why that, the answer is you're never going to know. Do you think that we're going to know for 100% certainty why anybody bought CME on Friday? How could we ever possibly know for 100% certainty? So why even ask that question, Tone Amp? Instead of asking, why would anybody buy here? Why would anybody sell here? How about we let the price action and the data come through? And since we know based off of open interest where they opened or where they closed, we can look at the data and continue to adjust our probabilities on if it's gonna go higher or lower. Okay. Specifically to answer your question, I don't know if you know this, but CME is Chicago Mercantile Exchange. People are gonna de-risk before the weekend. So if you were in a fucked up short, you're probably not going to hold that bitch over the weekend. You're going to close it, which is going to look like a market buy. But in general, brother, the last hour, the last 2 hours of Friday market close, you shouldn't really pay attention to it. I mean, you don't want to be too dismissive of it, but for the most part, you know, my Wall Street friends, after they leave for lunch, they don't come back into the office. Well, I don't want to waste any more of your guys' time because time is precious. Get off the computer. I mean, if you're trading right now, God bless you, stay safe, but let's get off the computer. Enjoy the rest of Friday. I'll probably see you guys on Sunday CME resumption. I think I will be here looking at the charts. The only way that I'm not streaming is I'm out for dinner or I'm on a flight or something and I physically can't be looking at the charts. But if I'm looking at the charts, I'll click start stream and I'll hang out with you guys. So I'm thinking maybe like a 2-3 hour stream on Sunday when CME comes back. Yeah, other than that, you guys have an amazing weekend. I love you guys. We're getting close to some big ass giveaways, tool giveaways, KingFisher Trading Light High Block. All right. You guys are the best. Longers, I'm rooting for you. Shorters, I'm rooting for you. Bulls, Bears, we're all lions. Hey, Sato, tell them what happens if you don't use stop loss.
他最西北人。